Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm so glad you're here. Today I'm going to be showing you everything that I am currently reading. Okay, so I thought it would be fun to kind of show you all the books that I'm currently reading through right now. Some of them are books that I am hoping to complete in May. We'll see, it's going to be close. Some of them are books that I'm just kind of slowly reading through. I think there's a little bit of everything. There's a little bit of nonfiction and one really large book that is probably going to take me well into the summer to finish. So, but I'll show you, give you an idea of kind of everything that I'm reading at one time. The first book that I want to share is a book called Pax by Sarah Pennypacker. It is a middle grade that I'm actually reading with my son as part of his homeschool, but I have to share it because it is so good, y'all. The beginning, I don't know if you're supposed to like cry at the beginning of a book, but I had a really hard time getting through the very beginning of this book. This little boy, Peter, is separated from his fox, Pax. And Pax and Peter have a really good bond because Peter found him when Pax was just a little baby fox. They have just been friends for a while, and Peter feeds the fox and he takes care of him. And they get separated when Peter has to go live with his grandfather. And then the story, as far as we've read so far, is Peter is trying to find Pax, Pax is trying to find Peter, and it just kind of chronicles all their adventures in that process. Like I said, it starts very sad, especially if you're an animal lover, but I think it's going to end up being a really hopeful story. I hope this book has an ending that is as good as the rest of the book so far. The next book is The Girl in His Shadow by Audrey Blake. This book is historical fiction. It's set in the mid-1800s. It follows Nora, who as a child lost her family to a pandemic, and she ends up going to live with this doctor who is pretty quirky and interesting, and she grows up and she stays with him, and as a young woman she is kind of learning about medicine and the trade, and that's what she loves. At that time, women were not allowed to practice medicine, so she is kind of flying under the radar and hoping not to get caught. There are a couple other male doctors that come into the story and find out about her. And I don't want to give away too much, but if you've ever watched like Call the Midwife, it's kind of like that. It reminds me of that a lot. There are some parts that are graphic, but it's not too bad, I don't think. Given that I'm an RN, I don't find the scenes too graphic, but you might if you have kind of if you're sensitive to those kind of things. But I think it's really well done. I love this book. I'm excited to see if she eventually gets discovered or how it all plays out in the end. All right, the next one I've got is Summer of a Thousand Pies by Margaret Dillaway. This one I am reading for the Southern Charm Readathon. This is a middle grade, and it follows Katie, who is, I think she's about 12 years old, and she goes to live with her aunt, who runs a pie shop where she makes a couple different pies and sells them around the community. This book has some different themes in it. It has Katie's dad struggles with addiction, and that's why she ends up going to live with her aunt. It also talks about immigration. There's a family of undocumented immigrants that live on her aunt's land and also work at the pie shop. I like this one. I think it was maybe like a little slow for me to start, but I have really come to love Katie and her kind of preteen angsty self. But I am right at the part where I think we're about to find out kind of the whole story of the aunt's pie shop and the future of that, and how Katie is going to play a part in that. So I think I'm just at the part where it's actually going to get really good. The next book I'm currently reading is Cat Stories by James Herriot. This is a book of short stories. James Herriot is a veterinarian who lived and worked in England. I think he was a vet for like over 50 years. And this kind of tells some stories from his work, specifically to cats. The stories are really sweet. Usually I got this one at the library because for Christmas my kids got his children's animal stories, like a treasury, and we have loved that. We have loved reading through that, and it has all types of animals, not just cats, but we really enjoyed it, and I thought that I would read this one since I am an animal lover, and the story that I've read was really good so far, so I'm looking forward to reading the rest of them. This book also has some really cool illustrations in it that I think kind of just make it fun as you read along. I really like those. The next book I'm reading is The Kiss Quotient. This book follows Stella, who is an autistic woman, and she is trying to learn how to be in a relationship, she wants to learn how to kiss a man, among other things. And so she hires an escort named Michael, and he, I guess, is at first pretty resistant to the idea, but then he really begins to enjoy Stella's company. And so they come up with this plan where she's going to pay him to basically teach her how to be in a relationship with a man. I really love this. I love the autistic representation, especially in a woman, a grown-up and a female. That can be hard to come by, and I think she's represented really well. I have an autistic son, so that can be a little bit different, but Stella has some sensory things that she deals with, different types of clothing and foods, and kissing can be kind of difficult for her. I think it's really sweet how Michael accepts Stella exactly as she is, and he tries to work with her where she's at and doesn't try to change her, and I really love that about this. It is a little bit spicy, but I think that fits in with the storyline. I don't think it's out of place. I think it's pretty well done. So I'm hopeful that this will have the ending I want it to have. Another nonfiction that I'm currently reading is The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. This one is, let me see if I can get it in there. This one is the engaging visual journey. So this book has photographs in it. Let me see if I can find one. Yeah. So it has photographs in it that are really cool, and other illustrations and quotes. I'm really enjoying this so far. It's kind of what I expected it to be. It's the story of Corrie ten Boom and her family as they are living in Holland as World War II is happening and the Germans are invading Holland. I think it's really well done. I love the pictures in this one. If you are going to read this, I really recommend this copy, because some of the things you read in the book, it really helps to have, at least for me, it really helps to have a visual. So I'm really, really happy that I got this version. Like I said, I think everybody should read this, and if you are going to read it, get this version. It makes it a really cool experience to read. The next one on my list is Prince Caspian by C.S. Lewis. So I have a goal this year to read through the entire Chronicles of Narnia series. I have read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe a few times in my life. But I have not continued the series, and I have all of the books in the series in a box set sitting on my shelf, and I am determined to read them all this year. So this is, there's some debate about the order in which you should read these books. This is the second book that I'm reading in the series after The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I think it's a good choice to read it this way. You will have to read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe before you read this one, I think. And this one still follows the four children kind of after they return from Narnia, and then they go back, and it is a different time. It's been really cool to read this. I guess I just never knew. I never realized that the story continued, so I am enjoying this one. The next book on my currently reading list is The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. So this book, so far, I haven't read too much of it, but I really love this book. It is a fascinating story. This woman, Henrietta Lacks, I think it's in the 1950s, like the early 50s. She is a Black woman, and she had, I think it was cervical cancer that was missed. Probably shouldn't have been missed, but was. She was just getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and eventually went to the hospital, and they actually took some of her cells, some of her cancer cells, and those cells have been used in science over and over and over again. They were grown over and over and over again to test cancer treatments and other things, kind of in the cancer science world. And her family and she were never compensated, and they were never even told that her cells were taken. That's kind of what I've learned so far. The author is going to her family kind of present day-ish and trying to get more information about what they knew, what they didn't know, and kind of how all that went down. Fascinating read. I think it's a really important read, and I'm really glad that I'm reading it. The next book I'm going to talk about is Heroic Measures by Jill Cement. Dachshund on the cover. This book is so good, y'all. I have a little bit left to read, but this one follows a couple who are like in their 70s, and they live in New York City, and their apartment is on the 5th floor, so there's no elevator, and they have to walk up 5 flights of stairs every day. So they are looking to sell their apartment and hopefully move into one with an elevator. As they're aging, it's just not practical. And so the day before their open house for their apartment, a like gasoline tanker, or I think it is, kind of crashes into a tunnel and stops up the whole city. And there's talk of it being a terrorist. The man who was driving the truck is on the run, and so there's kind of this like anxious feeling in New York City. So at the same time, the night before their open house, their little dachshund, she's an older dachshund, I think she's 12 years old, she becomes paralyzed. So they're rushing her to the animal hospital to try to see what's going on, and it's just kind of chaos for them in this moment. But I love the way that the characters are portrayed. Having had a dachshund that went through that very same thing, I can like feel the anxiety that they have, and the way they kind of lean on each other, and you get the perspective of the man and the woman, and also the dog. And I'm telling you, the perspective of the dog, if you are a dog lover, will be a little hard to hear at points. It just kind of hurt my heart when the dog gets left at the hospital, and she's just like, where are my humans? So that was sad, but I love the relationship that the couple shares. I love the way that they care for each other, and especially in a time of such chaos, trying to sell an apartment, dog is injured, chaos in the streets of New York City. It's a really good read. I think it's gonna be, 4.5, 5 stars for me. I have really enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. Now, last but certainly not least, I am reading 11/22/63 by Stephen King. It's a big one, y'all. I think this is, let me see how many pages. Yeah, 849 pages. She's a big one. I've been reading this for a while. I must set it down so it doesn't hurt my hand. I've been reading this one for a while. My dad actually gave me that book to read. He recommended it. He loved it. So it is a story about a man who is just going about his daily life, and all of a sudden is contacted by a restaurant owner in his town, and he finds out that this man has like a portal that takes him back in time to this same exact day. Every time you go, it's the same exact day, and when you come back, you've only been gone 2 minutes. And it takes him back to like a few years before JFK was assassinated. The restaurant owner kind of convinces the main character to go back in time and undo the assassination of JFK. So he has to find a way to stop the assassination, and along the way he kind of, he has a practice run where he goes in and he tries to change something and see how that works, see what happens, see how it changes life in the future. So when he comes back, he wants to make sure that it's not going to be too crazy. And I'm about halfway through, just over halfway through. I really like it. I think that it's a super interesting concept. I'm in, like, I'm all in. I want to know what happens with this guy, if he's able to do it. I think it's fascinating kind of seeing this guy live in a different time where he knows the future, but he's also like really in love with where he's living, and I don't know that he's gonna want to go back to the future. So I'm excited to see how it goes. Like I said, I'm all in. I'm really interested in this story, and I can't wait. I can't wait to finish it. I wish I could read it faster. But yeah, it's great so far. All right, that's all I have for what I'm currently reading. If you have read any of these or are currently reading any of them, I would love to hear about it down in the comments. For today's kindness moment, I have a quote for y'all. It's by Aesop, and it says, "No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted." It's the ripples, y'all. Everything we do has a ripple effect, and I think sometimes we discount the small acts of kindness, right? Like, we think, well, if it's not a huge display of kindness, does it even matter? But it does. Every small act of kindness matters, and you matter. So go out there and be kind to someone today, y'all.